Hi, my name is Carlos. I'm an intern here with the UF Office Extension, and today we're going to make a real quick and easy white bread recipe. Right here, you'll find the ingredients that you need to complete this recipe, and right here in front of them, I have them laid out. So I have my 3 cups flour, my water, my milk, my baker's yeast, my butter, my cooking spray, my olive oil, my salt, and my sugar. Now keep in mind, we do not endorse any particular brands here. This is just what I have here in my kitchen. So the tools that you need to complete this recipe are a really big bowl, a loaf pan, and a large area. Alright, so to begin, we're going to do a process called blooming our yeast. Yeast are really small microbes that like to eat sugar and then produce gas. This is how our bread is going to rise. So first things first, we're going to heat our water in the microwave to about 100 to 110 degrees. So we're going to test that with our trusty food thermometer. And while that's reading, we're going to have our other ingredients measured out. We're right on temperature. So we're going to mix our kind of cold milk with our warm water. And then we're going to add our 2 teaspoons of our yeast. This is also equal to 1 packet of dry yeast. Okay, set that aside. And then we're going to put in our yeast food, which is 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. So just give that a good mix. And then you're going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. And you should notice little bubbles forming. That tells us that our yeast is alive, and that means we can move on to the next step. Alright, now it has been 10 minutes, and our yeast and milk mixture is nice and frothy. Now we can move on to our next step. So, now we have our 3 cups of flour. Now, with the flour, you can use all-purpose, or you can use bread flour. Either one works. The difference is bread flour will give you a more dense dough, while all-purpose flour will give you a bit of a looser dough. So we're going to add this to our big bowl. Alongside our yeast mixture. And we're going to mix this well. Alright, now that you have it all mixed up, it's time to add in our butter. So, if your dough is still a little too sticky, you might want to add a little bit more flour, because when you put the butter in, it's going to moisten it even more. So, I think we can put a little bit more flour in. Alright, so now that you have your dough to your desired consistency, it's time to smear in our butter. So, you do this slowly in multiple additions. You just grab some butter, and then you smear it on your dough, just like that. And then you fold in that butter into your dough. Now this part's a little bit messy, so be careful. And you do this in multiple additions, probably about 2 or 3 additions. And if it's feeling like it's getting too sticky again, add more flour. Alright, so now that we have worked our butter into our dough, now we're going to do a process called kneading. Kneading is how you develop gluten into your dough by moving it around, and that is what makes your bread nice and chewy. So this is why you need the larger space, because you need to put some flour out so that you can work on it. So I put about a cup of flour down, And now you just start by just pressing your dough out a little bit. Just pressing it a little bit, making sure all the sides get flour. Okay, just like that. Then you press it out a little bit more, then you fold it over on itself. Okay, then you press it again. Press those sides together. You flip it and turn it at the same time. You flip it on itself again, and then you press that dough out once again. And you just repeat those processes. You just repeat that process over and over again until your bread starts to spring back. Alright, so now that we have kneaded our dough for about 5 minutes, it should be much stronger than when we first start working with it. Just like that. Just like that. And now we're going to do something called proofing. Proofing is where we just let it sit in a warm area and let the yeast start working. That's going to go ahead and start making some of that gas and go ahead and start giving our bread a little bit of life. So right here, I have a bowl that I grease with a little bit of olive oil, and you just put your dough in, and then you cover it with a towel and let it proof for about 30 to 45 minutes. Then we'll come back. So now we're back after our first proof, and our dough has increased in size. About double. That's about what we want. Okay? So now we are going to grease our loaf pan. I grease mine with olive oil just to be a little bit healthier, but you can use any kind of fat. So you can use the vegetable shortening spray, or you can use butter, but I prefer olive oil. So now we're going to flip our dough out one more time. Going to press it out into like a long oval almost. Okay, we're not going to knead it again. This time, we're just going to roll it up so that we can fit it into our loaf pan. So I'm just going to roll it. Just like that. And now we're going to put this in our loaf pan. Just like that. Tuck your corners in. It's going to look like that. Now we're going to cover it one more time for another 30 to 45 minute proof. And while that's proofing, we can go ahead and preheat our oven. We're going to preheat our oven to 375. Alright, so here we have it. The final loaf. About 30 to 45 minutes in the oven, then we get this nice golden brown loaf right here. And remember, we learned 2 new skills in this video today. We learned about blooming our yeast. That is when we mix our yeast with our warm milk and water and a little bit of sugar to make sure our yeast is still alive. Then we also learned about proofing. Proofing is when we mix all of our ingredients together for the bread and we let the dough sit so the yeast can begin to work. So, after you let it cool down for a little bit, just enjoy it with a little bit of butter.